Conversations with Baba-Maa. I'm your host, Irina. Conversations with Baba-Maa was born out of a desire for me to collect stories from my community about their parenting challenges and triumphs, from my own parents, from uncles and aunts, older cousins, and whoever would want to share their parenting stories with me. In episode 8, you will meet my cousin Mona and her husband Tariq, and they live in England with 4 boys who are between the ages of 10 and 22. This conversation was so powerful that I had to record this intro right away. And I hope you enjoy listening as much as I enjoyed recording this video. These 2 people and their family are very close relatives, but also exemplary human beings. And I am so grateful to have them share their parenting story with me today. And you are going to be blown away by all their advice and wisdom, and just understand, hopefully through this video, what great people they are. Thank you for joining me today, and enjoy the show. Mona pa Tariq bhai, welcome to Conversations with Baba-Maa. You are my cousin, Mona pa first cousin, and then Tariq bhai, your cousin-in-law. And you all have been married now 25 years with 4 boys and a lot going on in your lives. So I would love for you all to introduce yourselves. Mona pa, you can go first.
Okay, I'm Mona, like you said, and I am a mom and used to be in HR, and now I am a life and career coach.
So I'm Tariq Surti, but people call me lots of different things. I've been referred to as we called Eric, Derek, and one time Tarquin. But yeah, people find that pronunciation a little bit difficult. But anyway, I'm Tariq. So I'm 51 now. Am I 51? Yeah, 51 now. I'm most of my career has been in IT, so I'm now a CTO of a life and pensions company.
Well, again, welcome to this podcast. I've been very excited to have you all on board, and it's taken a little while, I know, but glad you're here. And a little bit about the podcast itself. I like to collect stories, parenting stories from my community, and that's where this podcast itself was born. And I would love to hear more about your challenges and your triumphs as parents over the past few years. So you have 4 boys, like I said, of varying ages. And Monapa, you have a quite the story, which we'll come back to, around being in HR and now becoming a life coach and being a mom only in the middle. So maybe you guys can tell me what day-to-day looks like with 4 boys.
You better start that one.
Yeah. Well, we could say 5 boys, really, couldn't we? If I'm doing the talking, but
Yes, if you're doing the talking.
yeah, the day is it's always busy and it starts early. I try my best to start earlier than everyone else, and with all the different ages, there's a lot of coming and going, and there doesn't seem to be quite a fixed time as I would like it to have, but it's busy and it's fun and it's very varied. That's 10 to 22. So I'm literally, we're always in the throes of it. So you're not speaking to us as parents who've been through the whole thing and we've got adult children. We do, and we have, but we are in constant motion because of the next 2, the 16-year-old and the 10-year-old. So yeah, we're always in a particular life stage of somebody's, but we haven't got through to any particular end, if you like. It's just constant motion.
Yeah.
I guess I'll ask you about the boys. Personality-wise, each of them are very different. I've known them many years now, obviously throughout their lives, but because you all are in England, we don't get to see you all the time. But, given you're the dad and you see each of the 4, what's it like? Like, how do you handle the different personalities?
They definitely have different personalities. That's actually for sure. And I suppose my approach to all of them is consistent, in the sense that I just want them to feel like I'm there. Yeah, that there is a fallback, right? And I think some of them will interact. Some of them will be interacting with me if I'm taking them around in the car or something like that. But some of them will sit very quietly. So I kind of meet them as they want to meet me, type of thing. And in their different scenarios, and they're all very different. So if I sit with if for example, if I sit with the little one, he's always got something to say all the time, right? And he wants an opinion about something, he wants a view about something. This is always there. If I sit with the third one, he will just sit very quietly, and that's what he wants, right? So I think it's just the core thing I want them to kind of feel is that I'm there and the presence is there. And accessible if needs be in whatever form that they want, right? But in terms of actually the other kind of personalities they have, some of them are a bit more physical and outgoing, and sporty. So it's really good to be able to then do something active with some of them. Yeah. But it's also yeah. So it varies a lot. Yeah, it varies a lot.
So your boys are some of my favorite children, even though some of them are adults. And frankly, as parents, I think I try to emulate the two of you. We tried to emulate the two of you, which you may not know. You might know for the first time today in this interview. But what are some things you want to share about them other than the personalities?
Want to share about them? I think the fact that they are all individual, I think there's a tendency, or there could have been a tendency to, well, they're all boys, so we just kind of lump them together and do the same things for everyone. It's not, we haven't done that. That's not the easiest choice in the world, I would say, in terms of parenting. The truth of that is, as a parent, that can be tiring, because you're thinking of the best thing to do for that individual child, and when there's 4 of them, that's 4 times the work, so for a parent. But I think that's what I would say, is that they have been able to, whether it's academically they are strong, or sporting, or in the gym, or whether it's in their faith practices, or their public speaking. I mean, each one of those things, I'm thinking of a different boy, each one of those things that I'm speaking of.
So Mona, I'll stay with you for a bit. So you have an interesting story that you've shared in the past with me and a few others just recently when we were talking about how becoming a mother changed the trajectory of your life when it comes to faith and working outside the home. So will you share more about that journey for our listeners?
How my journey began was like most of us in our family. We were very well educated. Education was like the primary objective, and then getting on to getting a good job, and earning well if that was going to be possible, and those were important success criteria to me, and they continue to be. So you maybe as we go on, you'll find out that I still haven't given up getting myself qualified in various things. Lifelong learning has become a bit of a thing for me. But when I had children, when I had my eldest, I really had to stop and think, like, I've now got this, as many parents do, I'm sure, I've now got this human being in front of me, and it's down to me. Like, initially it is going to be down to me as his mum, to teach him and to be his first teacher. And what will I teach him? And actually at that point it was very intentional, just in the way, and in some ways, there's some parts of it I would approach differently, but there was certainly intentionality about wanting to do my best in being a mother. Certainly not that it has been easy or perfect in any which way. I think one thing we are in our home, as you will vouch, is we're pretty open. So anyone who has seen us will see that we are just normal people, kind of in some ways muddling our way through. But the intention at the beginning of my motherhood journey was to do this, and to do this in the best way possible, taking lessons from the best source possible. So for me, that's when faith came into the equation, because now measurements of success meant something more and came from the divine. So now the benchmark is not what anybody else thinks, but is what will please my Lord. So that's where it came in.
So, Tariq, how much influence do you think you and your family, because you have a very educated family from a religious perspective. Your father was an Islamic professor. Your mother is one of the kindest women I've ever met. And how did that have an impact, do you think, on Mona Appa's decision?
It's
Asking
really,
the tough questions
we
here.
know we've kind of talked about that a bit, haven't we?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things in conclusions that we kind of took away is that we are products of our environment, right? So to the saying like, show me your show me your four best friends and I'll show you yourself, right? Type of thing. I think their presence, basically, them being around, them doing what they did and sticking to the principles they stuck to, in a very kind of, I suppose, like a quiet but persistent way. It's in itself has an impact, I think, right? A very subtle but deep impact. They never really said anything outwardly. They never mentioned anything to me. I don't think I mentioned anything to Mona at all. They just encouraged us to come around a lot, right, and visit them and things like that. And I think I think that had the effect it needed to have, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And because I think these are the type of decisions, I suppose, that they have to come intrinsically, right? For them to be able to persist and to be able to have the effect that they need to have, they need to be intrinsically motivated decisions. And I don't think anyone can actually force those type of things. So if the environment is there and your heart is inclined or your mind is inclined, then intrinsically you kind of like trying to absorb it a little bit more or find out, get a bit more closer to it. I think that's sort of what happened.
I think that's right. And I think now, when you articulate it, then it has influenced my way of being a parent, which is that this issue of not being able to force a particular viewpoint or achievement or way of being. I think that has influenced my parenting. So whatever my kids do, I'm very clear that you have to be able to carry this through, and you have to be able to take responsibility for whatever it is you do, and you have to be able to motivate yourself. That it's not going to come from outside. So I think his family's, just like he said, the way he is with his sons is for them to know that he's there by his presence. His family did, I think, probably the same for me. They never told me that I had to do anything, but their very presence, their way of being, their behavior from the beginning to literally to the end of their life, and I saw them all the way through to the end of their lives, was consistent. There was never a difference. They were who they were from the beginning, when I saw them 25 years ago to when they passed away, to their last breaths. So although I've never really thought about it, that sort of consistency, gentleness, kindness in their way, I think probably has had a huge influence on me as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Tariq, I think I've met your mother maybe only a couple of times, right?
I was going to say,
yeah,
I was going to say, I mean, it's very kind of you to make that kind of conclusion. I was just thinking how many times you've interacted with her, but you still left with that type of impression.
Yeah, and that's kind of very much the testament to the consistency and the persistence that you both just talked about, right? So maybe touch on that a little bit, Mona. Consistency is key in parenting, but then there's the individual nature of raising your children. So I wanted to come back to that because this is going to be a very strange analogy, but I keep thinking about this. As a manager or as a leader in your work, you also have to manage people individually, right? Like you may have a leadership style, and Tariq, in your job, you probably see this. Your directs are individuals, right? So you can't have the same type of management with everybody, just like your children. Like you want to be consistent, but you also want to individualize. Do you want to comment on that?
It can be challenging. I think certainly even when I'm coaching women in in their roles, it comes up, right? So there's also I think the challenge is that if you're not going to do the same for everyone, if I've decided that I'm keen to encourage their individual traits and characteristics and successes, there's also an issue of how that is perceived, whether it's by your team or whether it's by your children, as to whether it is fair. So the issue of felt fair is a big deal, and has been a bit of a challenge to navigate. Equality and equity. Do I do the same for you, or do I do the thing that is better for you because that's what you need? But how will it be perceived? How will you receive it as a child if you get something different to the other? I can't say that I've totally squared the circle. I think it's a tricky one. But yeah, really tuning into the children as individual human beings, not as an extension of myself, and also not wanting through your children to achieve what you didn't achieve. I think separating ourselves is a challenge, and I think the self-awareness that takes years. It takes years to separate yourself from your children, and if you can do it before adulthood, probably so much the better. So I think that the consistency versus the differences is an ongoing challenge, but I think overall I would say that it's worth it, because I think the consistency comes across in the family values and how you are as a family, and the individual action is for each child.
Yeah. Just to build on what Mona was saying, and I think kind of linking to kind of work analogy a bit, was that like it's in the work environment, you'll rally behind a vision or a mission, right? And that's not in question, that's indisputable, right? However, there are different characters that you have to shepherd along the way towards that, right? And I think that's the same type of thing. So I think foundationally, I think we have an end in mind in terms of actually what is non-negotiable from a principles or a values perspective. But then how do you coach someone in that direction is different, right? So the treatment is different. So there's there's the famous Arab saying, like the shepherd of sheep is different than the shepherd of camels, right? They're both trying to achieve the same type of things, but the approach to the individual is different, right? Or is customized for the person, the personality that they're dealing with.
I have a different animal analogy. Sometimes I say it's like herding cats.
Yeah. No, that's right. So some of them, for example, some of them will be, more kind of academic. Some will sit down to work by themselves, be self-motivated. Some of them won't. But actually, the importance of education and things like that is a consistent thing, right? But you will have to then guide them or kind of coach them slightly differently.
So what is that end outcome that you think about when you think about your children?
So for the children, I think they'll have to find their own way. But I think the end outcome that overall I would say is actually to leave the world a very slightly better place. And that can be as micro as you like. So we're not necessarily talking about changing the world as a world leader, but even if it is one person whose life you've affected positively, and ensuring that you have, had integrity and respected people as equals always. I think that's outcome enough, and then the rest we leave to God to judge.
Yeah, the crux outcome is like to live a purposeful existence, right? Where actually there is some service out not just to yourself, but recognizing that you are part of humanity and that there is a service to humanity. And I think we believe that actually that outcome comes from understanding your religion and being God-fearing, because that drives that sense of, okay, what is my purpose here, right? Well, why do I exist? Those existential kind of questions, but very important questions to get through your process. And saying, this is no accident, there is a purpose for me being here, there's a role I need to fulfill. And what is that role? And so how do I find out about that role? What are the parameters by which I kind of make decisions in my life? I think that kind of outcome. So I think if we were if we were talking about that one common thing that we're trying to drive towards, we'd be saying, we want our children to be God-fearing, understand that there's a role for them in this world. They're here for fulfill a particular purpose, and that purpose is outside of themselves. It has to be something giving back, like Mona was saying, giving back to society, humanity.
Yeah.
And in that, they will be fulfilling their rights to God as well at the same time.
So I think my next question actually dovetails really nicely into this. So we are the current generation with young children and aging parents. And over the past 25 years, for most of that, Tariq, both your parents were around. Mona, your parents live close by and you get to see them and take care of them. So what are some challenges and advantages of being in that boat where your parents are elderly and you're caring for them and you're also cultivating the next generation?
Yeah. Well, I think I'll bring it right down to brass tacks, as we say here. I don't know if you say that there, but right back down to basics, right? So what are the challenges? I think that oftentimes there might be just one of us doing that, or it could be that your time is like so stretched in different directions that you don't do as much as you think you should be doing, or you wish you could do more, or maybe you're not as present as you want to be, even when you are supporting or being around. So I think these are kind of real life challenges. That's how we tend to feel about these things, or a lot of people do. So that's the challenge is the busyness of our lives today, and just not being able to be in that moment, even if you get it, or not recognizing that this is the moment. We talk about those important things in life. The moment has just completely passed you by. You had that important moment and you didn't see it. So that's what I think some of the real life challenges. That the kind of advantage is like, what a blessing, to now Tariq has lost both his parents. We're even more aware of what a blessing it is to have grandparents in my children's lives, and the kind of 4 dimensions of life that appears for them, in every which direction, the presence, the love, the fun, the laughs. This is something where can you get this from except with having your parents in your life, and for as long as you have it, then just trying to know and trying to be with them in a way that is positive for them and for us. But when it does get difficult, being a little bit kind to yourself, that you are doing your best, and just keep at it.
Yeah. No, I think although we don't live in the same house, like as with Mona's parents, right? We are like a multi-generational family or household, right? Because they're not far away. There's a constant contact and things. And I think thinking about it from my own perspective, I think having our children experience that, coming from my own kind of background and not experiencing that at all, has been a great a blessing, really. And I think that the kids have really benefited from it. That's all right. So much so that like the youngest one, who's, like you mentioned, my mum passed away. He's not met my mum, but he still thinks about her, and he will get emotional about her because he's had that relationship with Mona's mum. Right. And he's thinking, okay, what's on the other side, right, that I'm missing out on? He will reflect on that, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he kind of calls that out. But also I think just having them around like that is a good opportunity for them to be able to understand like how do kids behave with their parents when they're older. So my brother keeps describing this as like, how will they know if they don't see it? So when we are in that position, right, as Mona's parents are, what is their reference point for how things should be? So I think in that way, having them close by and being this kind of multi-generational household, is really, really useful for them. And I think they get a lot out of it. They really enjoy it. They really enjoy the interactions. And they were like Yahya the other day hurt himself. Someone swung a tennis racket really hard, and he was standing behind them. And so he got smacked right between the eyes, right just above his glasses. And one of his initial reactions was, "I want to go and see Nanabai."
Oh yeah, I want to see Nana. I want to see my dad.
Yeah.
And he didn't rest until we took him to see my dad. My dad was a doctor, but retired many years ago. but everybody knows him as the doctor in the family. And so Yahya, after seeing us, the next person he wanted to see was my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then those connections, I think, are very, very good.
Very deep.
Very deep. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you're thinking about, well, the relationship that you have with your parents, close by, is something that's teaching your children what it might be like when you're older. So that's a really, really great thing. So, how would you say your own childhood was different from how you're raising the boys? Not just from a time perspective, I guess. There's all the things like technology and all the stuff that's changing. And if there are things that you're doing based on the times are changing.
I mean, obviously, you're right. The technology things have changed a lot. Like from only having like one channel on TV that only came on like at 7 o'clock or in the evening for a few hours and went off, right? But I think if I go first on this one, I would just say that actually it's chalk and cheese. It's like black and white. They're my kind of childhood experience compared to what our kids experience or have experienced is night and day, right? In the sense of they are they're part of a wider family. Yeah, like they have when is kind of my brothers and sisters, my brothers and my sister, and when is siblings as well, and when his parents, they're part of that, and they've grown up and not knowing anything but that. It wasn't like that for me at all. We're very isolated in that sense. Um, uh, they have schools here, they have friends that they see outside of school. It's not the same. It wasn't the same at all. They have like a community here that they kind of like interact with. It's not like that at all.
Wasn't like
it wasn't
that
like that. Yeah, it wasn't like that at all for me, type of thing. And so yeah, so I think yeah, and so I think the community point as well is important because uh, from the differences, like I think I left, and yeah, I grew up in their ages. I grew up as like very individual, like independent type of person, right? Um, just because of the environment, really. But I think they see life slightly differently, actually, much more how it should be, which is much more about social connections and interactions with people, right? So my interaction was largely just my siblings, and that was it.
Yeah, I think that's possibly, yeah, certainly they are more involved with friends. I think that was similar to me in my childhood. Friends played an important role there. I have friends from my school days to this day, from all different backgrounds, and that also has influenced me in my parenting style. That they should have friends beyond the family and friends from different backgrounds, different thinking, different perspective, because that's what I benefited from. And my parents supported me to do that, although they didn't necessarily understand it. They facilitated that and had my friends at the house, etc. I think childhood was different in the sense that my childhood, although it was very social with family, friends, etc., it was quieter in the sense of the communication was a little bit different. How we communicate so much and so openly with the children now is different to in my day. But I can see some threads that I have probably brought through for my children in some ways that existed in my childhood.
So one thing, Tariq, you said that even though you all don't live in the same household, you're a multi-generational household, which is another thing that's kind of sticking in my brain just now, is that my parents were not supposed to be in America, right? I was going to raise my children by myself. Like, yes, there's a community. I have aunts and uncles here, but it's different when you see your grandparents growing up. So Reese has basically seen my parents the whole time, Imani halfway through her 11 years, but it's made such a big difference. Like, I don't consider us a multi-generational household. My parents are 40 miles away from me, but we see them weekly, right? We see them as much as possible. And my sister being here, and it really is kind of a big group hug, right? Like, we may not agree on everything, but generally my kids are growing up with something that I didn't think they would because I had chosen to live here. Let's talk about the values that your respective parents raised you with. So Mona, if you want to talk about that first.
Yeah. So my parents, I guess, in terms of values, what they taught me was integrity or honesty. I think they would probably have called it honesty. Like honesty was like a big deal. How you earn your money, how you interact with people, what you say. That was a very big thing. Also, I think education was the importance of education and how that can uplift you and others, and then respecting others' views and respecting other people regardless of background. That was definitely part and parcel of what they taught me, even in those days when actually it was much more difficult to think like that, because not everything, I mean, even now, right, like the world is not exactly friendly in every corner, but certainly like when I was growing up, it was easy to be the only coloured face or non-white face in the classroom for years and years, like almost throughout my whole education. So to have taken away the message of diversity, if you like, and respect for others, even in those days, I think that was a big deal, and it's a really important value for me to this day.
Mm. Yeah, I think if you assume or take the term values as like a belief system that the people use to guide their behaviors and make decisions about, through a framework for making decisions. And I think the type of values that my parents have instilled from day dot, because we didn't grow up in this country, so I was born and raised in Nigeria, was that actually there is a creator, yeah, and you're going to be accountable, right? I suppose that's so, and that kind of, the whole thing was about the value of the religion, basically, and the Islamic religion in particular. I think so that really was the core thing that was passed over, if you like, right, or handed over. And that then permeated into or filtered into specific things, and those things included things like hard work, right? As an example, it's I still do it today. Mona and I like talk about it a lot as well. It's like my default will be something's not working, just work harder. Not about working smarter or differently. It's just how we're ingrained now about hard work, and accountability as well, in the sense that the buck stops with you. Right, the decision is yours, right? Whether you choose to or not choose to do something, it's your thing, right? And so that sense of accountability about being your own person, independent person, and you make your own decision, your choices, and therefore make the right ones, was the point there. And lastly, I would say one of the lasting things, and it was through everything that we saw around us for what our parents were doing. So it's not like so these values were never like preached, if you like. They are again values that are kind of osmosis, right, received in. And this third one was much more about service, right, in the sense that actually you have to live a life of service. If you're not helping someone else, then what is it that you're doing of value? And that.
Oh, okay.
Muhammad Ali, the boxer, used to say, yeah, and you should find the quote actually. It says, "Service to others is the rent you pay for your time on this earth."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think, but those type of values around service, accountability, hard work, and things like that, they were just like, yeah, they just felt like you just, yeah, and then you grew up with them. They were kind of intertwined with your DNA type of thing as you're growing up, and then you can't let go of them now.
Even if you want to.
Even if you want to.
We can't stop working
that one. Mona, let's talk about the lifelong learning piece that you mentioned a little while ago. So you have kind of gone from HR in very well-renowned companies to being a stay-at-home mom to now having your own business and learning more and getting, certified and things. So let's talk a little bit about that when it comes to what drives that.
Yeah, so I think I never really stopped in a way. There was always bits and pieces going on. So say, for example, when I decided to take a step out of the corporate world and raise my children, at the same time, I went on a spiritual journey and did some learning there. I can't claim that, it was to a huge extent, but certainly I learned a lot about my religion at that time. And then through that self-education, I decided to wear the hijab later in life. So I was learning at that time, going to courses and that sort of thing. And then whilst having the two boys, I also worked in the charity sector as human resources in a faith-based charity. And continuing on from there, I suppose, I had already been qualified, obviously, at university, and then I'd had my human resources qualifications as well. And then since then, I have got trained as a life coach because, well, you didn't ask me this specifically, but all roads were leading to Rome in terms of what my skill set is and where I can contribute best. Because human resources you're not really doing the people part as much as you necessarily want to, and not necessarily also impacting individuals' lives and transformation and change. And that's where I could see I had done that for people, and then I wanted to get qualified in it to get the sort of to make it official, if you like. So I qualified I did a course. I qualified in life coaching, and then went on. After that, I realised that actually I want to go a bit deeper into thinking of our mental health, really, not from a diagnosis point of view or from a mental ill health point of view, but to look more into the kind of the state that we can often find ourselves, I guess, often in midlife, but it could have become before, when you may well have everything ostensibly in place, but you are still feeling low mood, you still don't feel satisfied, something is missing, these kind of feelings and behaviors that emanate because of that. And so I went on to do a psychology course, not specifically psychology, but a branch of psychology called positive psychology. And so I'm currently studying that, and that's for a diploma in positive psychology. So that's where I'm at. It seems that much as I actually hate being a student, I can't stop being a student. So that's me. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also like you learn things throughout your life, whether you're actually a student or not. You really are a student of life, no matter what.
That's
right?
true.
Like,
that's true.
That's something. And Martin Seligman is the father of positive psychology. I've read some of his work. It's very academic.
It's hard to read that kind of stuff. I'm kind of getting more into Paul Wong now, who brings in spirituality and science. He's kind of more up my street now. So let's see. I'll let you know. It's still a work in progress.
No, especially the thing that kind of evolution or journey that kind of Mona described there. I think again, but it kind of stems from the fact that actually it's leading a purposeful life.
Yeah,
right. I think and what Mona was thinking, I think what kind of drove Mona to it, from my perspective, was to say, like, what do I give back? Yeah, how do I give back?
Yeah,
right, to the world, right, based on what the skills that I've inherently have, and she has very natural inclination to being able to work with people and emotional intelligence and things like that. So this was a way, finding a way to be able to hone or channel those type of skills and give back, wasn't it?
No, definitely. And I think that's the thing, that as a mum, I think you can sometimes lose yourself in the process of parenting, and a lot of your energies go outwards. So bringing it back into who am I and what do I want to do, it's actually... It's been a journey to rediscover that, but it's always been the same. It's always been, how can I affect positive change when there's so much depressing stuff going on in the world, and what's been happening in Gaza affected me like deeply. You feel hopeless and helpless. What can I do? So this was my one way of getting back into doing something good for others.
Yeah.
The thing you said about like the change that happens in midlife, right? So I'm in that space right now. That's been happening for me for, I think, all of 2024. I was in this, well, there's something missing. Like this particular podcast, actually, it was an idea during that time. It's like, okay, well, what is one way I can start to learn from people I already know, right? And I do that intrinsically a little bit. Like, I ask curious questions all the time. Like, that's just something that comes naturally, but it's a way to share something with people that may not get it otherwise, right? Like, I'm putting this out on YouTube. because there are people out there who don't have a manual for parenting, and they don't always have a community like I have to learn from. So that landed me in a much better place in 2025 than I was in 2024. So one last question before we go into some quick fire questions. So what are some things you do differently on purpose, so deliberately differently than your respective parents? So Mona, we can go to you first.
The answer depends on whether my parents are going to watch this, right?
They will watch it.
Okay. Deliberately differently. Ooh, gosh, wow. I think, probably communication through the different ages, and listening to them at their different stages, at their different ages, with a view to expecting that they have something to say that's worth listening to, however old they are, however young they are. So communication, which is an interesting one for me to take on in a house full of boys. I'm sorry to gender stereotype, but talking is not always everybody's favorite. But then having said that, to bust any gender stereotyping, the children have surprised me with how they can feed back and how important it is to hear what they've got to say, and I think I've written about this before, that it takes a certain huge level of humility as a parent, maybe because we're older or whatever, I don't know, but to stop and listen and think, well, okay, they're telling me something that I need to do differently to help them better. What are they saying, and what can I do, rather than the defensive response, which is much more natural, frankly, which was, well, what do you know? Like, I'm the mum. So the thing that I do is keep the communication open. As it happens now, and I communicate with my parents on a daily basis, but maybe in the younger years it was a bit different.
I think spending more time and actually just interacting with them or playing with them is very different. And I might be doing my parents a disservice because of maybe I can't remember the times and things like that. That happened to me, but I think that's definitely different. So I've been fortunate that they're all into different sports, so whether it's tennis or basketball or American football or something else, right? So there's always an opportunity to interact with them on that type of kind of environment or that setting, and so I think that's been purposely different. So that's the different level of, I suppose, like a different level of a connection. You're not a parent, then you're just kind of like chilling out type of thing, right? So there's a different type of relationship. I think that's one of the biggest differences, I would say. Yeah, so you're moving away from being a parent all the time to being like a slightly different, person in their life. That's different.
And that's with the intention that our parents were doing the best they could at the time, right? Like they didn't necessarily have some of the tools that you all have or we have right now.
Yeah. And actually, what we should say is this is what we're telling you about what we do. But if you were interviewing our children, they might tell you a completely different story.
No, that's right.
So yeah,
that's right. Well, I mean, I like your question, and it's a tough question, but it's like when you see yourself right there and you see yourself right here. The interaction between parent and child, what's the difference between what are the noticeable differences between parent and child? Yes, and you're right, there's many reasons why things are the way that they are, type of thing, but I think that is one difference I can see.
Yep. Okay, so some quick fire questions, and you can answer this in one sentence or a few words, just short ones. What is your favorite parenting tip to share with our audience?
A hard one. Go on, you go.
Always say yes.
Always say yes
first. Yeah. Whatever you do, always say yes first.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Even if the ultimate answer is no, always say yes first.
I think be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Like, take it easy. Like, parenting is a long journey, and it is not measured by the same things that you're measured with at work or at school or whatever other part of life. It is not a race, and there's no medal at the end of it. So be kind to yourself. Know that you're doing your best. Try your best, but try to keep focus on yourself a little bit as well, because especially as a mum probably, but parents generally, we're looking at our children literally outwards. We're looking at them, we're thinking of them, we're deciding for them oftentimes when they're young. So just remember to look back in sometimes and just check yourself, and it's okay if you didn't get it right. Just keep going.
Yeah, the tip is the fact that kind of touched on it earlier on. There's 4 different personalities, and they meet you with whatever they've got in their heads at the time, right? And so I think the trick, and the thing that Mona does well, I think it's kind of like it's like Aikido, right? The martial arts, where you transfer the energy, right? And this was my point about saying yes. It's like you can't block the energy that's coming through to you, right? So you have to accept that you take that energy and then transfer it into something else and push it back out again. But you have to first absorb that energy. And that's why my point about saying yes was like referring to. So wherever they're coming from, you've got to be able to meet them there, absorb it, change it, and then push it back out in a different direction.
That's a great tip. I haven't heard that one before, but good one to take home. So a bit of context on this quickfire question is that I think as you go through your own lives, your values change. So for me, for example, career success was it for a very long time. Not so much anymore. I don't know that it was a value, but it is something that drove me. I was very ambitious, so maybe that was the value. So what are the values that currently define your life? I know faith is a foundation value for both of you, but anything else you'd like to?
Yeah, an important value for myself, for my family, for the individuals in it is to know yourself and take time to know yourself, because I think life, you will take on lots of roles. So you will be, whatever, a manager, a senior manager, a director, C-suite, whatever it happens to be at work, right? You'll be a mother, you'll be a daughter. You're gonna take on lots of roles, and these roles will change over time. And some of them will go, some of them won't stay with you. But when the roles are gone, or if the roles go, you need to know who you are underneath it, who you are without the roles. So I think the value that is really coming, and I'm still working on it to this day, like literally actively working on knowing who I am and who my children, I want them to know. Right now you're a student, but who is it? When you were 6 years old and you wrote about who I am, what did you put? Maybe they put they were cheeky, maybe they put they were kind, maybe they put they were helpful, maybe they put they were clever. Who are you? And keep that in your heart and look after it, so that when the roles come and go, you're still you.
Yeah. Well, I would say, and I've said this to the boys already a few times, I think, but not maybe in the same words, but manners maketh the man.
Manners,
yeah. And so manners is so that as a value, as a thing for them to kind of build on, adopt, take on, grow, is hugely significant for me, because, and I think like you said before, like assuming the foundational thing is faith, right? And then you have to understand, well, what's the reference point do I have for manners, right? Where does it come from? And then it comes from the faith, and say, okay, well, what does the faith say about manners, and what is the power of manners? And you will know yourself, like what you can meet hundreds of people, thousands of people, but the ones that you'll remember, the ones that will leave a lasting impression on you, right, are the people that displayed manners, right, or good manners in particular. And I think that goes back full circle to the beginning of this conversation when you asked Mona the question about when Mona was moving towards understanding faith and what's the role of the wider family around us, right, at that time. I think that would be one of those things that made that impression at that time too, which is the manners.
That's great. So last quick fire question is, what is one thing you want your children to remember when you are no longer around? Tariq, we'll start with you.
Oh my God.
Unless you want to pass it back to me.
No, I was going to say, it's actually giving me some time to think.
Such a massive
I think, because you can answer, it's a very one thing. I think
one thing, one word.
Yeah. One thing that I want them to remember when I'm not around, after I'm not around, that they will also not be around. Yeah, that's it. I think that will give so much more perspective in life, right? And so it's less about like, outwardly, it's like, what is it that you're doing for tomorrow, today? Yeah. What seeds are you sowing today for tomorrow?
Only one thing is that I love them. That's it.
Well, that is a great way to conclude my portion. Anything that you all want to talk about that I haven't asked?
I don't.
How's your journey? How's your journey going?
How's your journey?
Oh, that's another podcast episode altogether. But my journey is heavily influenced by the two of you. So when I said at the beginning of the call that I intentionally and unintentionally emulate you all as parents and people, that is something that is very much in the back of my mind as I'm even talking today, right? So the things you're saying, I'm internalizing more than my audience might, right? So that's also like my spiritual journey kind of started with Mona many years ago, and I'm very far down, like very far behind is how I feel in my 40s, but I'm somewhere more than I was in my 30s, like a few steps ahead. So that's kind of my journey, but this was a great conversation, and I appreciate you all spending the time with me today. And
that's okay.
How would you like to wrap up?
Oh no, just before perhaps we wrap up, maybe I should say something here. I think one of the reasons that he and I haven't done anything like this before, and also not really stepped out in our roles, whether it's professional or as parents, is partly to do with this kind of never feeling like we're experts in anything, right? So always feeling that there's more to learn, more to know, more to grow, and that has been kind of instrumental or an integral part of how we also parent. That we are constantly growing and trying, and even though we've got to this, doesn't feel like we're as old as we are, but even though we've got to this grand old age, we still feel like we're students of life, students of knowledge, students of parenting, frankly, and we're learning from our children, having learned from our own parents. So I think definitely, like, everybody needs to find their own path. If there's any small thing that is helpful and is beneficial to anyone, then I hope it's there for them. But equally, we might have said a whole load of absolute nonsense, so feel free to ignore it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So just want to put that out there.
Exactly. By no means, like, and I appreciate you using like Mona kind of as like a reference point and things like that. But or this unit as a reference point. But everyone, as you know, and through the conversations you're having with other people as well, everyone is just trying to make it happen and do their best. Right? They all got a different set of cards that have been in their hands, that they've been played with, that have been played to them, and they're just trying to make the most of it all. So no one's got the right answer or anything like that at all.
Yeah.
But I suppose the leaving message, I suppose that if I was being a bit philosophical about it all, right, and not to say that we do this right now ourselves right now, is that we do change to our environment. Right, we will mold to our environment. You could do it. You can just read about it. You can try it yourself with different experiments. You could put something in the middle of your house. Right, you could put a horse in the middle of your house, and the whole way the family lives and works and around it will change. Right, but until you put that horse in the middle of your house, nothing will change.
Please
right?
don't put
so but whatever it may be, right? So you put something comes in, and then all of a sudden, you'll be there, you'll be working around it, or you won't even notice it's there. We'll just adapt to it, etc. But your life will be different. You'll be adapted a different way. So I think that's the crux of it all. And so what we're trying to do is just saying that what that thing is not a horse in the house, but it's God in the house, and that is what we're trying to work around.
Yeah, that's a great way to wrap. And I think we're all learning, and that's the purpose of this Conversations with Baba-Maa podcast. So thank you both for joining me today, and we will talk again soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.